Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're diving into the world of large language models again, but this time we're going global.
Ooh, going global, exciting.
Yeah, so get this. Alibaba just released a new open source LLM, and they decided to call it Babel.
Babel, huh?
Yeah, like the Tower of Babel.
I see what they did there.
Right. And to really get into it, we're looking at this article in Korean. It's called Tikiwiju Iju Yen. 90% U Inyu U Yen. O use ELM.
Wow, Korean. Okay, so we're really taking this deep dive internationally.
Yeah, we are. So this article, it highlights Babel's goal, and it's a pretty ambitious one. They're aiming to include the 25 languages spoken by 90% of the world's population.
90%. That's most of the planet.
Yeah. Think about that for a second.
Right.
Like, that's a lot of people.
It's huge. I mean, if this works the way they say it does, this could be a major step towards, breaking down language barriers in AI. And it could make technology more inclusive.
It's like that universal translator from Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. It's like science fiction becoming reality.
But the article also brings up a really important point and a challenge for a lot of LLMs. A lot of them struggle with languages that have less data available,
Right, the low resource languages.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens when we neglect those languages in AI development?
Well, I mean, if AI advancements are only focused on those languages with tons of data, it could make existing inequalities even worse. It could leave entire populations kind of behind when it comes to these technological advancements.
So you're saying that people could be excluded from things like healthcare and education just because of the language they speak?
Potentially, yeah. And it's important to remember that it's essential for so much of what we do.
It really is. So how does Babel approach this low-resource language problem?
Well, they use this really interesting approach called layer extension.
Layer extension, what's that?
So basically, think of it like adding new wings to a museum.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going following.
So you're adding more space for artifacts, but you're not changing the original foundation of the building.
I get it. So they're making the model bigger and more capable without needing to start from scratch and without making it a huge computational burden.
Exactly. It allows Babel to improve performance without, needing to sacrifice its efficiency.
So it's like they found this elegant solution to a complex problem.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, the article mentioned that there are two versions of Babel. There's Babel 9b, which is optimized for speed, and then there's Babel 83b, which is designed for high performance. Did you get a chance to look into how Babel performed compared to other models out there?
Yeah, I did. The article has some benchmarks comparing Babel to things like GLM 49b, Gemma 2-9b, and even some of the big names like Quinn 2.572b and Llama 3.170b.
Okay, so those are some serious contenders. How did Babel stack up?
It actually did really well, especially when it came to those low-resource languages. They used benchmarks like MGSM for inference and Flores 200 for translation.
So it's like Babel is excelling in those areas that other models tend to overlook.
Yeah, you could say that.
What's really interesting is that Babel was even tested against commercial AIs like GPT-4o after fine-tuning and got comparable results. It makes you wonder, are there other players in the AI world who are focusing on multilingual LLMs?
Oh, absolutely. This is a field that is changing really quickly. Just recently, Cohere released Aya Vision. It's an open source VLM that works with 23 languages. We've also got specialized models like Mistral's Arabic model, and even the EU is working on a huge project to make a model that covers 24 official EU languages.
It sounds like we're about to see a multilingual AI boom. And this Babel release, it could be a pivotal moment. But before we go any further, let's take a closer look at what this all means. What does this surge in multilingual LLMs really mean for the world? Join us after the break as we dig deeper into the potential impact of this technology.
This is going to be good.
See you in a bit. We were talking about Babel and, this whole wave of multilingual AI. Pretty mind-blowing to think about the possibilities, but I think we need to dig a little deeper into what Babel's emergence means for the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on a practical level, Babel could be huge for democratizing access to information and technology.
For billions of people, even.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine seamless real-time translation. Think about what that could do for healthcare education businesses.
It could break down so many barriers.
Right, and foster cross-cultural understanding. I mean, the possibilities for collaboration are pretty much endless.
It's like we could suddenly tap into all of this collective knowledge from people all over the planet.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, think about personalized education tailored to your specific learning style in any language.
Or healthcare.
Oh, yeah. More accurate and culturally sensitive diagnoses and treatments.
Doctors and patients could finally understand each other no matter what language they speak.
Exactly. It's like giving everyone a voice you know.
Yeah.
Regardless of their background or where they're from.
Empowering communities that have been left out because of language barriers.
And it could help researchers and innovators from different countries work together more easily.
Imagine the advancements in medicine science technology.
I know, right? It's exciting to think about.
It really seems like Babel could be a tool for building bridges rather than walls.
Absolutely.
But, going back to that Tower of Babel analogy,
Yeah.
are there any potential downsides we need to consider?
Oh, definitely. I mean, any technology comes with challenges. And with something like this, I think it's important to ask, who controls this technology? How do we make sure Babel is used responsibly and ethically? How do we make sure it benefits everyone and not just a select few?
Those are really important questions. We keep talking about breaking down barriers, but I can't help but wonder, could new barriers pop up?
Oh, like what?
Well, imagine a world where a single LLM understands pretty much all languages. What happens to information control then?
Yeah, that's a good point. And what about the potential for misuse?
Exactly. These are serious issues.
The article doesn't really go into too much detail about these specific concerns, but it's definitely something to think about.
I think this is where international organizations like the UN or the EU could step in. They could establish global standards for responsible AI development, especially for something as powerful as multilingual LLMs.
I completely agree. And I think it's important to remember that it's not just on them. We as users, as citizens, we have a responsibility to stay informed and engaged.
To hold developers and policymakers accountable.
Right. It's like we're standing at a crossroads. Babel has amazing potential, but it's up to us to make sure it's used for good.
And that it benefits all of humanity.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, but before we wrap up, I want to circle back to Babel's source code for a second.
Okay.
The article mentions it's open source, available on GitHub and Hugging Face.
No, that's right.
I think that's a great starting point for anyone who wants to learn more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what better way to understand Babel than to actually explore how it works,
I completely agree.
This reminds me of that time I tried to learn Mandarin.
Oh, how'd that go?
It was a humbling experience, let me tell you.
I can imagine. I've always admired people who can speak multiple languages. It's like a superpower.
Yeah, it is. But with Babel, maybe we can all become polyglots in a way.
That's a really interesting thought. What happens to our understanding of culture and identity when language isn't a barrier anymore?
And how will it change the way language itself evolves?
We've definitely given our listeners a lot to think about today. Any last thoughts?
I want to leave everyone with this. As we're thinking about Babel and other multilingual LLMs, let's not forget to ask the hard questions. What are the potential downsides? How can we avoid them? And how can we make sure this technology is used ethically and for the good of all?
Those are important questions to ponder. The future of language is really in our hands, and it's up to all of us to shape it responsibly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Babel and the world of multilingual AI. So we've been talking about Alibaba's Babel and this whole trend of multilingual AI. It's clear that this technology has the potential to really change how we communicate, how we interact with the world.
It really does feel like something out of science fiction, seamless communication across languages.
It's exciting, for sure.
Yeah.
But like we've said, we need to be thinking critically about this too. We've talked about misuse and the need for ethical guidelines. But as we move forward, are there any other challenges that stand out to you?
That's a good question. One thing that comes to mind is what happens to all the other languages? The less resourced ones.
You mean, will they be marginalized if a single LLM like Babel becomes dominant?
Exactly. If AI can bridge the gap, will people even bother to learn new languages?
It's like that worry about technology replacing human skills. But here it's not just about jobs. It's about cultural heritage. It's about the richness of human expression.
Right. And there's also the issue of accuracy. I mean, language isn't just about words. It's about context,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Humor, cultural nuances, all those layers of meaning.
Exactly. Things can easily get lost in translation.
I remember trying to use an online translator to order food in Italy once. Didn't go so well.
It happens. But imagine that on a bigger scale, With important documents, legal agreements, diplomatic communications.
The stakes are high. Accuracy is crucial.
So while AI can be a really powerful tool, we still need human oversight. We can't just rely on the machines to do everything perfectly.
It's about partnership then. AI can help, but humans need to ensure it's used responsibly and ethically. Which brings us back to the role of developers, policymakers, and us everyday users.
We all have a part to play in shaping the future of this technology.
So where do we go from here? What can people do to get involved to make sure multilingual AI is developed in a way that benefits everyone?
Stay informed. Read articles, follow the research, engage in those online discussions.
Don't be afraid to ask questions and challenge assumptions.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, Babel's source code is open source. It's on GitHub and Hugging Face.
Go take a look, see how it works. Understanding the technology helps us have those important conversations about its impact.
That's a great point. And, support organizations that are working to promote linguistic diversity and digital inclusion.
Let your elected officials know this is important to you.
Responsible AI development is a priority.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a new technology. We forget to think about the human element. But ultimately, AI reflects our own values and aspirations.
Very well said. The future of language and communication, it's in our hands. It's up to us to use this technology wisely to ensure it serves all of humanity.
What a powerful message to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Babel and multilingual AI. We hope you learned something new and that you'll continue to explore this fascinating topic. Thanks for listening.